Hello, and welcome to our new podcast, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful Testers. In this one-off mini-series, software test leaders and recruiters of software testers come together to share stories and give tips and advice on how to secure a long-term career in this amazing industry.
Hello, and welcome to episode 6 of the 7 Habits of Highly Successful Testers mini-series. My name's Beth, and I'm here with Binni, Georgina, George, Charlie, and Sam. And last week we talked about the importance of being flexible and pragmatic. And this week we're going to talk about how important it is to really be visible and effective with your manager or your boss. So, quick question for everybody. Have you ever left a job purely because you didn't get on with your superior, your manager? Anyone? Does anyone dare answer this question?
Any absolute silence.
Well, there's definitely people out there who have 110% left their role because of their relationship with their manager. It's just a given, right?
Yeah.
This happens. And it's a real big shame because you can be in a place that you really enjoy working, and you know the work that the products that you're working on, and your teammates and other people in the business that you are around, you know, it's brilliant. You love working there, but if you have a bad relationship with your manager, it can unfortunately just feel like hell, can't it? So it's actually really important for you and for your manager to put effort in to build a positive relationship. So yeah, you know, it's important for you to try and help your manager and understand what their needs are, so that you can make sure that they're getting everything they need from you, and being aware of that and trying to work towards helping them will make you stand out to them as well, and they'll feel good about working with you in response to you being helpful. So I'd say, you know, definitely always try and be considerate of what your manager's needs are and work towards getting that for them and more, you know. Like when we touched on in previous podcasts, sometimes you have to go out of your normal job role to do things that you wouldn't normally do. But if it's going to help your boss and it's going to actually build a better relationship for you, or it's going to make them feel like, you know, a bit of weight's lifted off of their shoulders and that they can rely on you, then definitely you should be trying to do that, because that's important, to have that kind of a bond and relationship with your boss.
I think this is a much easier thing to do when it is sincere. So I think one of the most important things that I've learned from doing various interviews and things is now any interview that I go to, I have to meet with the person that's going to be my either my line manager or my boss or even my boss's boss, and make sure that I can get on with that person on a sort of personal level, but also in the way that they want to work, their working style. So I know, perhaps more important than anything else, the technology stack, the sector that the company is in, all different factors. It's really, really important that you can align with your boss's sort of vision, and you know that you will work well together. Because if you have that down at interview stage and you feel that there's that good energy there, it will make having a sort of reciprocal relationship just so much easier. And it just makes you, you're right, it does make you stand out if you're that person that will help your boss and not see it as just, it's all about what they can do for you. It's a two-way street. What do you guys think?
I think from my sort of perspective as well, I like you were just saying just then, it's more of a two-way street now than the sort of ever before. The old school sort of traditional methods. I went to a few interviews beforehand where it was just an hour and a half of absolutely grilling me, and I was like, after that, I can't work here just because if it's like this in the interview, what's it going to be like in like actually working for them? So it was a case of that, and I was like, yeah, I can't really see myself wanting to help that boss out. Whereas where I'm working now, if someone needs some help, I'm more than happy to do what I can. I think sort of tackling the problem, I can appreciate it isn't always as easy as this, but one of the ways, especially for people looking for a new role, similar to sort of shift left testing, similar to sort of shift left interviewing. So rather than sort of taking a gamble and saying, oh, I might be able to work with this guy, I might not be able to, and then finding out after 3 months that you can't because their micromanagement scheme or whatever it is, or that's just the way that they work. Really get down to it early on in the processes as you can. So whether it's the first interview, asking as many questions around how they like to work, they get to know them on a personal level and saying, can I actually work with this person, rather than, oh, is this good tech, or is there just an opportunity here? You need to be able to sort of see that and then obviously develop. I guess interviews are kind of there so you can build rapport gradually, rather than just looking at someone saying, yeah, I want to work there because there's this opportunity. So just doing that as early on as possible is probably a tip.
I love that. Shift left interviewing. Yeah. I love that, because I think it's something that you gain with experience, right? So you go for your first job and it's like buying your first house. You don't really know what you're looking for, but it looks really pretty. So you go and live there, and then you realise that you can't park your car and the neighbours are awful and every day is just awful and you hate it. And then you think, right, I know what I don't want my next house. Yeah. And then you kind of learn, and eventually it's important to identify your working style and the sort of people that you really work best with. So for me personally, I'm quite a completer finisher, so I'm a real detailed person. I will take notes, I will care about something getting done from start to finish. So I work really well with people that are quite high level. They have a vision of what they want, and they can be creative and come up with that vision, and then I can see that through to fruition whilst they move on to another sort of big ideas thing. So that is something that I actively will ask questions about at interview and look for. And I think it's easier said than done identifying what your working style is like, but think about if you've ever, what your bad experiences have been with your previous bosses. You know, do you, like Sam says, do you hate being micromanaged? Do you, I don't know, what are some bad kind of management things that people get ticked off by?
As in, like, when a manager is doing something wrong?
Yeah, when relationships are sour, what's sometimes the root cause of why
micromanagement is like the biggest no-no. I think that especially when it's unwarranted as well. So you know yourself that you can work without too much supervision, and I think as soon as you begin to get micromanaged, that can cause you to probably not be as productive because you're maybe paranoid about what your boss is thinking, or and if you think that you can't be trusted, then it's almost like you feel like, well, there must be a reason why, and sometimes your performance could slip as well,
And I think if you're ever in that kind of a predicament where you're feeling like that your manager's actually doing something that's not really making you productive or making you feel good, it's good to as well try and subtly have an open conversation about it without obviously being horrible. But it's important. Like, building a good relationship with your manager is very important. So if you are in these kind of predicaments, like what Georgina's just been speaking of, feeding that back to your manager is important so that they can actually be made aware, because they might be doing it without actually realising.
Yeah.
Or they might have seen something that's made them feel like they have to do that, but you don't actually know that they've seen that particular thing that's made them feel that they need to do that. So to have these conversations with them is really good. I mean, I know for sure that I love it when people can just be honest. If you just have an honest, civilized conversation about it, sometimes you do realise, oh, I didn't realise I was doing that, or the other person, you know, vice versa. So it's important to have a relationship with your boss where you can actually be honest with them.
Yeah.
And speak about these certain predicaments, for sure.
I think there's a lot to be said for being empathetic both ways as well. So, you know, someone might make a decision that you disagree with, but you don't know why they've made it. And if you can understand the why, it makes it a lot easier to kind of accept it.
Yeah.
Almost. And sometimes I think with bosses or with senior management, sometimes the higher you go up the chain, the more difficult it is to prove that you need to be there. So bosses don't have they can't show, demonstrate, right, this is why I'm worth this much money because I've done this, this and this. And if you can do silly things, like it doesn't cost you anything to praise your boss and say, oh, when we restructured the team like this, it worked really well because this, that and the other, and actually make it visible to other people that there are either team successes or successes because of the way that that person has handled a particular situation, giving them something to show for their work. Because if you're a tester and you have something to show for your day's work, and often the managers don't. And I think being empathetic to that situation that they're in is a positive will be a positive for you. I don't know, what do you think, George or Charlie?
I was just sort of backing up that point, sort of, yes, help your boss, but also back up your boss. So if they make a decision that you may or may not agree with, firstly, disagree with them in private, but when you're actually speaking to team members, back up that decision. And if whether you know the why yet or not, until you do, back up the decision and then disagree in private with your boss and either find out why or try and change their mind. The last thing you want to do if you're trying to help your boss is sort of be part of the whispers of dissent. You want to be helping them quash those whispers while, you know, pushing the right message out. I think that would be this thing. So yeah, help and back up what your boss is doing.
I think that particular point is really important. Sorry, Sam.
No, after you, Binni, after you.
I was just going to say, that point that Charlie just made is really important. I think that bosses really appreciate you actually speaking to them in private and having a productive conversation about something that they may have suggested. Often, bosses might not be able to understand what's happening on the ground, right?
Yeah.
And they may think that XYZ is a really good plan and they'll put it out there. But when you have your one-to-one time with that person, that boss of yours, and you explain to them, actually, you know, this is what's really happening on the ground, and you be that open book for them, I think that they really appreciate having that visibility and that understanding of what's going on so that they can tweak their plans. So yeah, I think that's a really good point that Charlie's just made.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of difference which I can see is because I can appreciate not all personalities get on with all personalities, and it's just the way the world works. But I think it's wanting to help your boss. So if you're just going to help your boss just for the sake of helping your boss, and you're both sort of just colleagues or whatever it might be, I think that'd be a lot harder to do, especially if they're struggling, which is what I would say sort of comes down to more of the qualification. I know I mentioned it before, but you need to make sure that whoever you're working with, you can actually work with them and you want to, because it's definitely a good thing to do. It makes for a more sort of collaborative working environment. But if you're with a boss that you don't necessarily like, it or whatever it might be difficult to want to help them, because why would you if you didn't like them? So I think you just need to look at everything as a whole, and make a decision sort of accordingly. Sort of be honest with yourself. Who, like Beth was saying, she knows exactly the sort of people that she likes to work with, and be open and honest in the interview. And then if anything clashes, then yeah, that's just the way the world works. But I'd also say it's probably more, if someone was asking more questions like that, I think they're more sort of equipped for the role, I guess, and more sort of choosing rather than like desperate and just taking any job just for the sake of. They're more sort of considered in their decision, I guess. But yeah, that's what I think.
I definitely think it's the case that, you know, if you can find people at whatever level, it doesn't necessarily need to be your boss. It could be your peer, it could be someone from wherever, but it often is your boss. If you can find one boss that you work with really well, well, they might not be in that role forever. They might go somewhere else, and guess who they're going to call on? The person that stood in for them when they were on holiday and made sure shit got done. The person that offered to give them feedback on a presentation or a document that they'd done. They didn't have to do that, but they did it anyway to make their lives a bit easier. The person that kind of listened to them sometimes bosses have a really stressful existence, and it's hard, and sometimes they just need an ear, a sounding board, and that might open more doors for you. You know, I know that happens all the time. My first contract role was with my last boss. I didn't know this, but he handed his resignation in a week before I did. And then when I handed mine in, he said, would you think about coming to work with me at this next place? And that happens all the time. You know, it does happen if you can find people that you can work effectively with. And like Sam was saying, it's not necessarily a personality fit or a culture fit. It's about being sort of aligned in your vision and the way that you want to work, and you're working towards successful delivery, and you know, you can be trusted and relied on to work from home without shirking from home. You know, all this stuff. We need to have a more trusting relationship than ever before because of the way that we're now working. And if your boss doesn't need to worry about you in that respect, it does make their lives a heck of a lot easier. Is there anything else, Georgina, that you'd say or talk about?
The only thing I was going to say is I think you need to be honest and open with your manager about like what's going on like on the ground day to day. I don't know, but what I imagine happens is, you know, managers are busy going to meetings and whatnot, and they don't always know like what's happening day to day. Like there might be something you might be seeing maybe in a negative light, or something might be happening in the team that's making you feel down, or any of those things. And I think communicating that to your manager and just being honest and open with them will help you build that relationship. You know, they're not mind readers, so they might not necessarily know how you're feeling or what's going on. And I think if you can tell them, that's going to help you and it's going to help them as well. And it'll also just build that trust and that relationship between you and your manager.
You've made it to the end of the 7 Habits of Highly Successful Testers podcast. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it, and we're looking forward to bringing you more of the 7 Habits soon. Till next time, goodbye.